Hey YouTube, it is League Turnovers today, and with that we are starting with Great League and Retro Cups. I will cover Retro Cup this afternoon. Retro Cup itself isn't even a bad meta. It's only banned 3 typings, Steel, Dark, and Fairy, since they weren't in the OG games. But when we have an open Great League and a new meta and new moves and everything, we want to test those out. So I would guess most people are going to play Great League, and that is what we are going to cover in this, the rankings and the teams. So rankings 1 to 20 here. If you want an in-depth analysis of this entire season and pretty much every Pokemon, I made 2 almost 50-minute videos. One covering the top 50, going in depth analyzing why they're ranked the way they're ranked, underranked, overranked, and then another one over top 50 Pokemon, 51 through like 300, seeing like where some hidden gems and why and what can kind of rise up and why. So go check out those videos if you want an in-depth analysis. We will do the quick one here. Corviknight. Again, I've covered Corviknight for the community day. Air Cutter, some people are maybe bait dependent. In itself, stats, typing, amazing. Air Cutter, I can't tell if it's going to be bait dependent or if you can just go Air Cutter 3 times because it only takes 9 to get to. So going like 988 or whatever the spam on this thing is, it's not a hard hitting move, but if you have a chance to boost your attack and it spams at 988, it's going to cause some problems. And then the typing alone, flying steel is going to be fantastic. So you should see a good amount of Corviknights. The meta has changed significantly, so I'm going to jump around a bit and just kind of go over buckets here. So the first bucket is going to be Fairy. There's 2 on the front page here, Wigglytuff and Doxbun. Charm got, I think, an improvement. It lowered the damage, but increased the speed it gets to the charge moves. So now the Charm still does, if you actually look at the damage per energy, quite a lot of damage. But now you're getting to these charge moves quicker. So you can see Wigglytuff 12 to get to a Swift and 15 to get to an Icy Wind. And Doxbun now just 12s to get to Psychic Fangs and Body Slam. And Body Slam got rebuffed this season. So Fairies are going to play differently, but I think they're going to be tougher to play against, quite honestly, because you're still going to have that charm damage that's going to add up. But you're now going to see these charge moves quicker. And like Wigglytuff, that is so highly ranked because it has some bulk to it. And it's got the Icy Wind too, so if it wants to, it can just kind of Icy Wind you a couple on the lead, Icy Wind you a couple times, lower your attack twice, and then kind of force you out while being able to take moves. So Wiggly, Doxbun as the Fairies. Why Fairies also got a huge rise this season is because there's going to be a ton of Dragons. So Regidrago at 8, Guzzlord at 9, Giratina at 15, Como at 16, Turtonator at 20. And the reason all these dragons have risen so much is because there has been a rework of Dragon Breath, Dragon Tail, and Dragon Claw. So you have your Dragon Breath, much like your Fairies, where Dragon users with Dragon Breath, it wasn't as overpowering and slow as Charm was, but it was often you were relying on the fast move damage and not your charge moves. That is completely reworked this season. Now with these dragons, you are relying on your charge move more, which is why Pokemon like Regidrago is ranked so high, because now you're getting to that like 100 plus, 120, 140, whatever the damage on Dragon Energy is in 12 turns, right? So you're doing okay Dragon Breath damage, but now getting to like 120, 130 move in only 12 turns. So very, very hard hitting and now a lot more spammier Regidrago. Guzzlord, you could see it was like, okay, the Brutal Swing's not a great move, but only takes 9 to get to now. But Dragon Claw, that got reworked, and that is on Turtonator too. Dragon Claw is now a hard-hitting move. It does like 90 some odd damage. So you'll be able to kind of go just Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw like twice on Guzzlord to take out a lot of things. So Dragon's definitely a higher. Dragon Breath on Giratina, same sort of thing. You're getting to charge me faster. Dragon Claw's Ancient Power there at 12. Como, Clanging Scales, Upper Hand. Clanging Scales is like 140 damage move. It does lower your defense, I believe. But you're now getting to like almost nuke in 12 turns. So the Dragons are going to play a lot differently this season. And because a lot of the Dragons, some of these have good stats on them for the Great League in itself. And now with the way that Dragon Breath and Dragon Tail have been reworked, that is why they're so high. Add on Turtonator with Incinerate. It is that dragon that now has a little more coverage with that Dragon Claw. So you will see a lot of dragons. Another couple of things that got buffed this season are these rock type Pokemon. So Carbink got the Rock Slide buff, and for some reason they thought, it'd be a good idea. Let's buff Smackdown. So they buffed Bastion's fast move. So Bastion and Carbink are the worst. This is saying as someone who actually used Bastion a few times last season because I understood its strength in the meta, and its strength in the meta will remain this season. So you have two Pokemon extremely bulky. Their defense is through the roof. They could take, like, depending on the move, like 4 or 5 charge moves, unless they're like super effective or something. But the problem with these Pokemon is they can always get walled. Rock Throw, Rock Slide, Moonblast. You go against the number 10 ranked Clodsire here. You have nothing to throw. Same thing, Smackdown. Bastion Smackdown, Stone Edge Flamethrower. Go against a Gastrodon. You don't have anything to throw there. So those are the matchups where they just get absolutely destroyed. Your opponent's going to beat you extremely badly and come out with like 100 energy and like half health left. So these two are very, very strong. They're going to feel RPS at times. So you're going to get them on some Pokemon and you're just going to absolutely dominate them. And then you're going to get them on other Pokemon and be like, oh, I hate this Pokemon. So do have a high rank just because they are XL, a lot of bulk, lot of walls to other Pokemon, right? Carbink's half Fairy, Bastion's half Steel. So you resist the dragons that are buffed. You resist Steel, resist Fairies. So lots of strength there. But yeah, you could get walled into some Pokemon. Steelix is reworked too. It is not I didn't cover it as part of the dragons, but it does have Dragon Tail, which again, now getting to the moves faster. Breaking Swipe changed. I don't know if I call it an improvement, but it now does guarantee the lowering of the attack. And now, more importantly, you now get to 132 damage Earthquake in 15 turns here on Steelix. So Steelix, with its bulk, with that Steel typing, Steel again resisting the dragons and the fairies, now getting to like a nuke of an Earthquake in 15 turns. It's going to cause a lot of problems there. I did skip over Empoleon. Let's go back to Empoleon because it is got Metal Sound now. And Empoleon has become, in my opinion, Feraligatr of previous seasons. I think it is going to be one of the go-to save swaps. I think being able to spam Shadow Hydros in 10 turns is very valuable. I think your half Steel typing is going to help you with the current state of the meta. And I think that Drill Peck that also got buffed is going to help you with your potential weaknesses where water is resisted against like grass, although there's no grass in this meta, against like grass and other things that resist water. So Empoleon is going to be what Feraligatr I think was a few seasons ago. Clodsire is still Clodsire, you know, there's going to be more fairies, so as a poison you're doing it there. You got the ground for all the steals that should come up, like it just Clodsire's Clodsire. Dedenne, I really thought Parabolic Charge was going to get nerfed. It did not. So as a fairy, more dragons, so you're just going to have a little more play, plus that Thundershock, Parabolic Charge, and now Corviknight's number 1 too. So just being able to spam what is a good move in Parabolic Charge and raise your defense each time is going to make Dedenne kind of a problem. Lapras, I think Lapras kind of, I don't know if it's risen or around the same. Lapras with Sideways Sparkling Ire was always good. Sparkling Ire is again like a 90 some odd damage move at 12 turns. And now not now you have Ice Beam, but you have Ice Beam for all these dragons too. So I think just with your bulk and your spam with Psywave and your Sparkling Aria and your coverage for Ice Beam, it's just going to be a good Pokemon. And Galarian Corsola, another one where did not get nerfed or buffed in any way. And I think some of these ghosts, I kind of went over this in my, because there's like Dusclops that has dropped, and I don't understand why. Because my thought process is, you know, there's Guzzlord as a dragon there, but with more fairies, you may be scared to use some of these flyers. Some of these darks as much as you have in the past. So I think like Galarian Moltres has dropped, especially with like Dedenne too. Between that and the fairies now, maybe there's less dark, which also helped Corsola. And in terms of normal typings, Diggersby took a little bit of a nerf because Scorching Sand's percentage chance of the fall got nerfed. And because the way of the meta, Ferret, with more fairies, Sucker Punchers resisted, and more steals, Swift and Trailblazers resisted, Ferret has dropped. So suddenly some of those normal typings that were going to be a problem to Ghost are gone too. So I think Ghost it didn't get a direct buff, but I think it kind of got like a sneaky secondary buff because of the way the meta is going. So I think Corsola is going to be very strong. So let's start looking at some teams here. I always start with the number 1 ranked Pokemon, and it is Corviknight. As you can see, pretty nice down the board. You got to cover your electric weakness and your fire weakness. And oh man, how do you team build with a Corviknight? Well, the same way you did with Skarmory seasons 1 through like just 20. With Quagsire or Swampert or Whiscash, a Mudboy, Gastrodon to a certain extent. So you have the same old core of Swampert, Skarmory, now in Corviknight, Quagsire. Quagsire is the better option for out of all the Mudboys at this part of this point in GBL. And then you just need a safe swap. And so what are the safe swaps this season? There's going to be a few safe swaps. I think Empoleon is going to be a good safe swap. You don't want to use Empoleon because then you're double weak to electric. And then Drapion could be one. Drapion could be an okay one to use here too, but I decided to use Credilli just because you have... Yeah, I just think Credilli kind of covers the weaknesses here, right? Credilli resists the electric that Corviknight will have. You have the Rock Tomb for fires that it'll be weak there. You have the acid for if you see a grass, not that you're going to see many grass, but if you see a grass, acid for those that Quagsire would have problems with. So it seems like a good cover Pokemon for this very balanced team. A lot of the teams you're going to see here just are balanced with a safe swap. And we look at Wiggly. So I think Wiggly's not going to sim as well as it's going to play. I think if it's going to play a lot better than it kind of looks here. But the charm got reworked. You're spamming those Swifts. You have those Icy Winds to lower the attack. What are your weaknesses? Well, of course, you're still going to have Poison weakness, and Steels are going to be a problem too. So to cover most of those weaknesses, and Fire to a certain extent, because Fire will resist Charm. But again, you're not relying on the Charm as much because you're getting to the charge moves at an okay pace. But those are three typings that are going to cause you problems. So the easiest one, again, is the Mudboy. You're going to beat the Steels, you're going to beat the Fires, you're going to beat the Poisons. So put in Swampert. Again, I just use Swampert. You can use Quagsire, you can use whatever Mudboy you want here. And then you need a safe swap. So I was looking through and I'm like, okay, what other safe swap could I use? You know, Drapion would be okay. Then if you're using Swampert, like Drapion just a little spammy, like glassy, and I was like, those two in the back. So I'm like, Glaciopod. But then I was like, okay, but Steel, Fire, and Poison all resist Fury Cutter. So whenever I do these top teams, I always use the recommended PVPoke moveset unless I say to change it. I would change it if you're using this team. You could still use Glaciopod Fury Cutter on another team. If you're going to use it on this team, I had put in Shadow Claw. Shadow Claw basically does the same energy, a little less damage because you don't get the same type attack bonus on it, but it's still going to be a pretty strong safe swap, being able to spam those X-Scissors Aqua Jets at a very, very quick pace of 10. So that would be my safe swap on this team. Reggie. So Dragon. Still a lot of losses because there are, again, Carbink Fairy, Wiggly Fairy, Steelix Steel, Empoleon Steel, Bastion Steel. So fairies and steel, and to a certain extent ice is what you need to cover if you were going to be using the dragons. For the most part, the majority of the dragons, except for Turtonator, which is a fire, is kind of a different one, but most of the dragons, I didn't build a team with Guzzlord, I didn't build a team with Giratina. Most of them are going to play the exact same, especially the way that they have been reworked. So choose your dragon, cover your ice, ice, fairy, and steel weakness. So obviously, what covers a lot of those? The Mudboys, Gastrodon. And why are the Mudboys going to be everywhere this season? Because they only have one weakness, and it is grass, and there is only one grass Pokemon in the top 100, and that is Credilli, which you would still hit neutral against because it is half rock. So I would start thinking about the Mudboys actually quite a lot, because I do think they're going to make a rise this season, just the way the meta is going to go. And then you need a safe swap. So I was like, okay, safe swap that can kind of deal with some of those Pokemon that I mentioned, like the issues for Reggie. Galarian Weezing. You got that Fairy Winds fast charging, fast move. So you have the Sludge that will hit super effective against the fairies, and you just have a very quick Brutal Swing spamming there too if you want that. You can also use like stuff like Overheat and other moves if you want, but if you just want the spam, Brutal Swing and Sludge will get you there. Okay, so I put in Carbink because I'm like, I know I hate it, but it's highly ranked. I need to see how it sims, and obviously it's going to destroy a lot. Most of it against the dragons here, but just with your bulk alone, you're going to do well against a lot of Pokemon. So where's going to be your weaknesses? The Mudboys, the Grounds, Waters, they're weak to a certain extent grass, but there's not a lot of grass. So I was like, okay, need a safe swap. Dusclops is a pretty good safe swap. And again, there's less, I think there's less darks and less normal typings this season, where I think something like Dusclops, which is already pretty good as a safe swap, can now just do even better as a safe swap. So that's my safe swap. And then to cover your weakness, I went off the board a little bit. Not even off the board. It's like 100 and something ranked. And I mentioned this in my outside the top 50 video yesterday, if you want to check that out. I mentioned Venusaur, and I mentioned that again. Why I keep saying there's no meta, no grass meta, is because Niantic has done everything in its possibility to make sure that grass cannot play in this meta. Last season, they buffed Bug, Steel, and Poison, all which dominate grass. And this season, they buffed Dragon, which resists, and they buffed Fire. And they buffed some Steels too. So you have like 5 to 6 typings that cause grass problems that have been buffed in the last 2 seasons. Because of that, the meta has shifted the way it has. And there's a lot of ground. There's now a lot of rock. Water has been top meta forever. What I didn't even mention is this season, the 2 sort of usable grass Pokemon got nerfed. Aerial Ace got nerfed this season. So Jumpluff and Superior, which were very usable, very strong Pokemon, are now ranked like 200 and 300 on PVPoke because you don't have that Aerial Ace beta anymore. So you just lost your only Frenzy Plant user in the meta and the very bulky, spammy, hard-hitting with acrobatics Jumpluff. So you need a grass Pokemon. And I know that Venusaur, as a grass poison that's also poison resisting all the fairies we're going to see, is going to have a lot of play in this meta. You got the frenzy plants for the rocks, the waters, and the grounds. You got the poison that resists and will hit super effective against the fairies, and you can still just spam the poison move on the dragons where frenzy is resisted. So Venusaur, if you're looking for sort of hidden gems, I got one coming up here with Sandslash 2. I think Venusaur and a couple of these other Pokemon that are like more anti-meta, even though they're lower ranked, are going to be very, very strong. Ninetales, Empoleon, and Annihilape. I'd like to say that this team is probably going to be a little glassy, so I don't know if you want to adjust it. But Ninetales is getting an Ember buff. Now, we have to wait and confirm. The assumption that I made and that PVPoke made is that it's going to be a 4.5 energy move. It has to be. If it's not a 4.5 energy move, any fire Pokemon trying to use it is not going to use it because it's not going to be a good move. Not going to be good enough to help fire in the meta where water's super effective against you, ground super effective against you, rock super effective against you, dragon resists fire. The meta is not set up for grass. One of the things you hit super effective against, grass, non-existent. Everything else in the meta, not everything else, but a lot of things in the meta hit super effective against you. However, it got an Ember buff as the fast move, and now it is getting to Weather Balls that also... So it got 2 buffs because Weather Ball also got buffed. So now you're getting to a quick buffed Weather Ball in like 8 turns. So you're spamming these Weather Balls. At the same time, you now have your Overheat nuke coming at like, I think it was like 16 or maybe 14 the second time around, at an insanely fast pace for what is like 180 damage move. And it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if you're against a water Pokemon. You do not want to take 180 damage move. Even resisted, that's still going to chip you significantly. So being able to just get to those overheats, nukes at a pretty fast pace now because you have a 4.5 energy turn move is going to be very valuable. You got to cover everything that I just mentioned as your weakness. So I started with Empoleon as a safe swap because Empoleon will cover some of those grounds, other waters, can do okay against like resist dragon because you're steel. So that's why I put in there. And then I put in Annihilate because Empoleon's weak, a couple weaknesses. You're weak to fighting. You do have a double ground weakness here. Both Ninetales and Empoleon are weak to ground, but Empoleon has the Hydro, so we can kind of deal with some ground Pokemon. So I put in Annihilate because not that it's an answer to ground, but it's an answer to the fighting that Empoleon's weak against, and it is generally a super strong Pokemon. If you've watched my videos in the past season here, I've used Annihilate on like 4 teams in a row and right now. It's potentially my legend team. Go check that out. Whether I hit legend or not, I'm posting a video. Maybe Sunday afternoon, maybe Monday morning. I'm at 2977, so we're going to have to see if we hit. Number 6, Murkrow. I don't know about this one. I get it. It's fun. It's spicy. It's a shadow Murkrow. It's got a ton of XLs behind it. You know, as you can see, it's going to have problems with a lot in the meta. Not only are you weak to all the fairies as a dark, you also have flying, so you're weak to all the rocks that are out there too. So you got to cover all those weaknesses. Drapion, I put in just as a safe swap. Again, don't worry about the sim as Drapion. This is why you should go watch the outside of top 50 video where I talk about some of these safe swaps. Drapion, Empoleon, Credilli, even Lapras to a certain extent. Some of these do not sim as well as they are. And Drapion is one of those that, like, if you use it as a safe swap and you get 1 Poison Sting advantage, you get 10 extra wins. And if you get 2 Poison Stings advantage, you get like a 17 extra wins. So Drapion does not sim well, but it plays a lot better than it does. And the other Pokemon that I think is going to be everywhere this season, and rightfully so, is Marowak. I don't know if I put the shadow in here, but Marowak has always been a shield beast. And now you have fairies and dragons, so you just need something neutral against all those. And Marowak being able to just mud slap Bone Club its way through that in the 1-2 shield is going to be very, very, very valuable. So I think you're going to see that a lot. And I think I have like I think my last team here is the team that Pokemon. I don't even know if the team fully makes sense, but I think I make actually double weak in the grass in the back. Again, who cares about that? But Pokemon that I think are going to have an insane amount of play this season. And the first one is Sandslash. Sandslash is like 50 something. Now, double weak to fighting, double weak to fire. So that's partly where Jellicent comes in and partly where Marowak comes in. But Fairy got buffed, you resist with Steel. Dragon buffed, you resist with Steel and hit super effective with Ice. Ground is everywhere, you hit super effective with Ice. Waters, it is recommending Shadow Claw because of all the waters. So the recommended moveset on PVPoke is Shadow Claw, the community move on Sandslash, as the fast move to at least hit neutral against all the waters. You got the rocks. You will take neutral to rocks. You're half steel, half ice, but you hit super effective with the drill runs. So suddenly Sandslash is covering a ton of the meta, which is why you see a lot of just like no hard losses. Again, one of the hardest losses is your double weak to fire. So you got to cover that weakness. So I put in Marowak as the ground. I just kind of mentioned Marowak has always been like a shield advantage beast that you can like 2 shield, like, oh, you safe swap Marowak and they come in for Alligator. It doesn't matter. You just code 2 shields and you're going to beat it. And Jellicent has been one that has been a very strong Pokemon for a while now. That kind of took a little bit of back seat because for a while there, the meta was just like the Denes, which they're still there, but then like Galarian Moltres started showing up when everyone started getting those. So there were some darks out there. So Jellicent was still strong, being able to beat most of the waters, being able to beat the ground. It'll do well against the fairies. It'll do well against the dragons. And now with maybe a little less normal typings where Ghost is... Fret was the other one, right? Fret caused the problem. So now with potentially less normal typings with those a bit gone, potentially less darks with all the fairies a little bit gone, something like Jellicent should have a really strong play in the Great League in the current state of the meta. So again, go watch those long videos because I kind of talk about the meta. I've kind of talked about a bit here what I think the meta is going to be. At the end of the second video is where I kind of come to the realization of this meta is actually potentially bigger than last season. I just went through and I counted. I'm like, okay, which Pokemon from last season are like now borderline like not usable? And you talk about like Jumpluff and you talk about Superior, and when you count the ones that are like borderline useless now, and it's like maybe like 5 Pokemon, and then you count the Pokemon that went from like basically nobody used them to now super usable in some of these dragons, like Como's on the front page here, Turtonator's on the front page here, and then you started getting into like, oh yeah, now you can use Ninetales. Oh yeah, now you can use Darkspun more. People were just using like Wigglytuff, and now you can use the second fairy. Oh, now Carbink's actually going to start showing up here. And so just like, I think I did the calculation where it's like you took off like 6 to 8 Pokemon that were usable last season, and you added like 20 more now usable Pokemon. Empoleon wasn't usable. Now it's like wanting to be one of the best save swaps in this meta. So all that to say is, if you thought the meta was open last season and you had problems figuring out what you were going to see, I think you're going to have a bigger problem this season. Now, you might not have it the first week, because the first week, Evan's just going to test out everything. And this is what I do on the channel. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do it Beyond the Hype. We test out all of these buff Pokemon. How do they actually play? We see how they sim. We understand why they're stronger. How do they actually play? So we do Beyond the Hype, saying like, okay, this is its strengths and weaknesses, and this is where I think the meta is going, etc. But it's not till like the end of the first week until you actually start trying. I don't even think I'm trying at the end of the first week. I think it takes me like 2 to 3 weeks before I actually like, maybe I should start putting teams together that actually grind to try to like get elo. For the most part, the early part of the season is just testing Pokemon. So the first part of the season, what do I expect? The first part of the season, I expect a lot of fairies. I expect a lot of dragons. I expect a lot of people to test out these Pokemon. I expect some people to test out these fire Pokemon. I expect some people to test out, what else got buffed this season? Some of these steel Pokemon. So I expect a lot of just testing during the first week. And then I think there's going to be eventually a meta narrowing. But the problem is the meta is not going to narrow enough to, it's not going to ever narrow to where it was like 10 seasons ago, when you just had like 3 or 4 Pokemon that was on 80% of teams. You're not going to have the Medi, Lantern, Noctowl, Trevenant, Walrein, Registeels, like those like trifectas of like, oh, everyone's using, 70% of people are using 2 out of these 3 Pokemon that you knew how to build the meta. I think the meta this season will still be, you may see 50 different Pokemon. And at times it's going to feel RPS like, oh, I think I got a safe team. I think I got this safe team. And then you can maybe run against like a Turtonator, something like Turtonator, Guzzlord, Turtonator Lead with like a Guzzlord in the back or something. Like you did, like, it's very, very possible that you think you can figure out the meta and you'll just get hard countered anyways, because the meta is going to be pretty wide and there's going to be so many usable Pokemon, which, again, I don't think having a super big meta and a lot of usable Pokemon is a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing. It's just at times much, much harder to team build. And I kind of go over that in my legend or not legend video on either Saturday or this morning, or Saturday or tomorrow. I don't know when I'm going to post all this stuff, but or Sunday or Monday. The meta last season caused what were previous number ones in the world to take until 5 days to hit the top mark. Leaderboard players for the last like 6 seasons took until 2 to 3 weeks before to hit the legend. The people who won regionals weren't legend within the last 2 weeks. The leaderboards, which at this point, the best players at like number 500 are at like 3,300 elo, are like 3,150, because the leaderboard, because home slice, congratulations on hitting number 1 in the world. A lot of people are struggling to figure out the meta because there's just so many different variations. And so when you know the meta and you just know that you're so much better, it's much easier to be at that 3,500 elo. But even if you're amazing, but you can't figure out the meta and you just get you have a team, but even the team is just seeing some random 100 plus Pokemon that still has play in this meta, it's just harder to find a team that you can actually grind with. And I think that's probably going to be the same this season. So don't get frustrated if you are building a team and you're seeing a bunch of these other 50, 60, 100 ranked Pokemon that are just beating your team. That's just the way the meta is going to be this season. Anyways, hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching, and hit the subscribe button if you're new. Stay tuned for Beyond the Hype of all these buff Pokemon this season. We'll check them all out, and I will see you guys in the next one.